Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. Welcome back to What's on the Playlist today. Today I want to talk about Harry Belafonte. Um, I'm using this All-Time Greatest Volume 1 image, which we'll see here, but I'm going to talk about him in general. The only albums I have of Harry Belafonte's are greatest hits collections. I have the Essential Harry Belafonte, which is a 2-disc set with roughly 37 songs on it. But I'll be referencing this one more often because this is the album most people seem to know. Virtually all the songs that are on this are also on this. I got this because there was one song on here that I wanted, which I suppose we might talk about a bit. But since we're talking about him in general, Harry Belafonte was born in New York of Jamaican immigrants. Grew up relatively ordinary childhood in New York for a black man at the time. He went to live for several years in Jamaica with his grandmother, went to school there for a while, came back to the United States. Did not do well in school because he had undiagnosed dyslexia. He also apparently had some partial blindness in one of his eyes. He did drop out of school to join the Navy to fight in World War II. When he came back to America, he was working as a janitor. He happened to be friends with Sidney Poitier, who was also, a struggling man at the time. Belafonte was given tickets to see the American Negro Theater as a gift, and went there and was enthralled and wanted to become an actor. He had no aspirations of being a performer prior to this. It wasn't in, anything he was interested in until seeing those performances and just becoming passionate about it. He and Sidney Poitier both studied acting. Belafonte initially started singing in nightclubs in New York to pay for his acting classes, oddly enough. He performed a lot on the theater, got recognized, made some albums, transitioned to movie, working also in films. He has roughly 13 films to his credit, as well as several top singing albums. His third album, Calypso, was actually the first album to sell 1 million copies by a single performer. I know that most people of a certain generation, mostly younger than myself, and maybe even of my own age, primarily know Harry Belafonte because of his involvement. His music was played during the Beetlejuice movie, the first one. Haven't seen the second, so I don't know if it's there as well. But people know him from a couple of his songs, but he was very, very prominently in film, television, and in the 60s and 70s. I don't recall ever hearing much of his stuff on the radio as growing up, but he was all over television. He was on, music shows, comedy and sketch shows, talk shows, everything talk show music. He was all over television. And he was very, very influential to a lot of people. He was outspoken as a civil rights activist. He met with Martin Luther King. He also, John Kennedy, when he was campaigning to be president, actually met with Harry Belafonte to try and get him to endorse him as the Democratic nominee for president in the 1960s. So he was very well known and very influential, not just in music and theater, and he was very active in politics. Odd twist of fate, he actually did some work with Obama's father back in the 60s. So odd little connection there. Belafonte is one of the few people who has won an ergot which is an acronym for he has won an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony Award. So, you know, for music, theater, television, and film, he has won awards for all four. I think for myself, I love his voice. He's one of those few people who has, I'm not sure about few, but for me at least, he has one of those voices that I could just sit and listen to. You know, actors who come to mind who share that quality are Sam Elliott. And Sam Elliott's a guy who you could listen to, like, read legal documents, and you would sit there enthralled. And Morgan Freeman is someone similar. There are just people who have these voices that are so rich, you know, and so delicious to listen to, that you can just, you know, well, it doesn't matter. You'll just listen to whatever they do. And I find that musically, Harry Belafonte has at least the same effect on me. You know, there are other artists whose music I love to listen to, and for similar reasons. But, you know, like I love Bonnie Raitt's voice, but her voice has a smoky quality to it. I love her. I love listening to her sing because she's very evocative, but her music isn't quite as clear and my word, delicious for Harry Belafonte's music. You know, I don't know what it is about him, but I just love his voice so much. The songs he's best known for, Deo, or the Banana Boat song, Jump in the Line. Both of those songs were in Beetlejuice. Jamaican Farewell is also something that's been very popular for him. He also did the song Turn the World Around. I don't know if he wrote it or not. I mean, other than all the songs on, almost all the songs on this one is All Time Greatest Hits Volume 1. Most of the songs here he wrote. At least half of them he wrote himself, or wrote with someone else. I'm not sure about the Turn the World Around, which is the reason I bought this second collection, because it's on here, but it's not quite the version I was looking for. He, in the 1970s, I think it was 78, he performed Turn the World Around on The Muppet Show, with specially designed Muppets to evoke African tribal masks. And the version is slightly different. It has a different tempo and a different sound to it than recorded on his albums. And it is my favorite version of song. Jim Henson stated that because of Harry Belafonte, that episode was one of his favorite episodes. And the Henson family actually asked Belafonte to perform the song for Jim Henson's memorial, being a Jim Henson fan, and that being also one of my favorite episodes. Yeah, I really liked that. You know, if all you've ever heard of Harry Belafonte's songs are the songs I mentioned that were in Beetlejuice, I really would urge you to listen to some of his other stuff. You know, I think his All Time Greatest Hits is probably one of the easiest albums to find, because it is one of the better known ones. But like I said, Calypso was one of the first albums to sell 1 million copies by a single artist, so that one you could probably find as well. Not sure what else I can say, because I don't write scripts. And I work from memory. Anywho, as always, thanks for watching. As always, my stuff is crap. And until next time, good hunting.